Welcome back to my weekly predictions. This week it's week 15, and I'll be talking about all the games and predicting each of them and showing you some of the playoff chances some teams have to make it and miss it. Alright, first game, Rams vs 49ers. The Rams are favored and probably going to win. The Rams are a better team than the Niners right now. The Niners have been struggling all year, and last week was their best game. They blew out the Bears, but the Bears aren't a great team, so I think the Rams win. But it'll be a close game. So yeah, I think Rams win. Washington for Saints, not that hard of a game, not that close. I think Washington wins. The Saints have won a few games recently, but I don't think the Saints are all that good. They still have a chance to make the playoffs, but it's very slight. So they're 5-8. I think they go 5-9 after losing to Washington. But the Saints defense has been fine the last couple weeks, but they have played some of the worst offenses in the league. Now, the Cowboys versus the Panthers. I think that the Panthers are going to beat the Cowboys this game. This it's not going to be that entertaining. The I think Bryce Young's better than Cooper Rush, and I think he'll have a breakout game. So I think the Panthers will beat the Cowboys. Now, the Seahawks versus the Packers. This is actually going to be a very good game, I think. The Packers have been doing well recently. They lost to the Lions last week, but they played very good. I think the Packers are just a better team than the Seahawks, so I think the Packers are gonna win. But the Seahawks can win. Their offense has been a lot better, and actually their defense has been a lot better, and their offense has been steady this season. So they could still beat the Packers, and they kind of need to win this game if the Rams win today. So Bears vs Vikings. I think that the Vikings would beat the Bears. The Vikings have been a good team this year. Obviously, 11-1, 11-2. Sam Donald has really played well. Gotta give him props. He's been on the Jets and the Panthers, but since coming to Kevin O'Connell's system on the Vikings, they've been a real threat. So yeah, Vikings beat Bears because the Bears have been a mess. They just got blown out by the Niners. Giants vs Ravens. I think that the Ravens are going to beat the Giants. My favorite team, the New York Giants. I think they're going to lose to the Ravens. And I don't know. The Ravens are probably going to win because their defense is good. There's not much to say. The Ravens are better than the Giants. They won by. They lost. They need this game. So the Ravens are going to win. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it would be a close game because the Ravens' offensive line has been not as good as it usually is. So I think the Giants' pass rush will get there. But yeah, Ravens will win by like 10 points because the Giants' offense is just terrible. So we got Buccaneers versus Chargers. I think that the Chargers are gonna beat the Bucks because the Chargers have been a much better team. Like they've they're able to run the ball. They do have J.K. Dobbins is not gonna play. They can still run the ball. Ladd should play this week. And yeah, the Bucks defense isn't great. The Bucks have been hit with injuries on offense, and the Chargers have been one of the best teams on defense. So I think it'll be a low scoring game, like most Charger games are, and Chargers win. Now, Patriots vs Cardinals. I think the Patriots do have a chance to beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are reeling. They were at number 1 in the division, and now they're 7-7 in third place. They can still make the playoffs, but they would need to win this game, and I think they will win this game because they're the better team. But it'll be a close game, and Cardinals win like it'll be like probably 20-17. Lions vs Bills, the game of the week right here. This is gonna be the best game of the week, and I would say the best game of the year, but I don't think it will be Rams vs Bills. It'll be a very good game. The Bills with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's probably the MVP right now. So yeah, I think that the I so and I think they're gonna lose because the Lions have just been so much better this season than the Bills. Their run team's dominant. Their defense isn't great, but I just think the Lions have a better run game, better receivers. Jared Goff has been good this season, not as good as Josh Allen. So it'll be a close game, but I think Lions win like a 3 point by 3 points. But the Bills can very much win this game, and if the Bills win the game, they're in play for the 1 seed. So this game means a lot for both these teams because if the Lions lose, then the Eagles could catch them in the first place, or even the Vikings can catch them in division. So this means more for the Lions than the Bills. Steelers versus Eagles. This might be a hot take. I think the Steelers would beat the Eagles. The Eagles, every time AJ Brown starts complaining, the Eagles start passing it to him. Jalen Hurts always passes it to AJ Brown when he starts complaining, like I said. So I think they're gonna try to pass the ball, and Saquon's not gonna get as many carries as he usually does, and the Steelers are gonna be able to stop them, and the Steelers will be leading like 10-0 by halftime, and the Steelers defense isn't gonna let the Eagles just run the ball to try to get back in the game. They're gonna have to pass the ball still. So yeah, I think the Steelers are gonna win, and I think the Steelers are gonna win by like 10 because the Eagles are all gonna stick to the game plan. They're gonna throw the ball to AJ Brown. Now Falcons versus Raiders. I think the Falcons would beat the Raiders. The Falcons have not been playing good lately, and if the Falcons win this game against the Raiders and the Bucks lose, as you can see, they're in fourth place. But we'll talk about that more later. The Falcons have been doing some good things. Before the 4 game losing streak or the 3 game losing streak, they were 6-3, but then Kirk Cousins just turned into like old. He's old and he's struggling. Like he does not as mobile as he used to be. They might put in Michael Penix if they're losing to the Raiders. They might actually put in Michael Penix, which would be a huge move. So yeah, I think Falcons beat Raiders, but it'll be a close game because I don't think Kirk Cousins is capable of blowing this Raiders team out when Max Crosby's going to be on his ass the whole game. Now, Dolphins versus Texans. This would be okay game. Both of these teams, the Dolphins are worse than the Texans, but the Texans have barely been winning. They seem tired for having such a late bye the end of the at the last few games. That's why they lost to the Titans and barely beat the Jags. So I think they'll be energized and they'll beat the Dolphins. But this means more for the Dolphins. The Texans already almost clinched the division. I'm not going to say yet because the Colts are 2 games behind them. But if the Texans win one more game, it's basically their division. So this doesn't mean as much as it does for the Dolphins. If the Dolphins lose this game, they are not making the playoffs. It'd be very hard. So yeah, but I think the Texans are gonna win. They're a better team, but it'll be a close game and it'll be a good game. Bengals versus Titans. I think the Bengals are gonna win. The Bengals need this. They can still make the playoffs, which is pretty unlikely. They would need a lot, but I'll talk about that later. The Titans, they haven't been a great team on offense. Their defense has been good, but the Bengals offense is so good that they'll score like 30 points. So as long as Will Levis doesn't get like 34 points, score a bunch of touchdowns, which I don't think he will. He sold me in the playoffs in fantasy. I thought he would cook the Jags defense, but that doesn't matter. I think the Bengals win. Jets versus Jags. I think that the Jets are going to beat the Jags by a lot of points. Mac Jones is playing. The Jags defense, it looked good last week, but how much is that of just Will Levis being Will Levis? I think the Jets will beat the Jags. The Jets have all the talent on offense, good receivers, in Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. Aaron Rodgers can still throw the football, not very mobile. And the Jags pass rush has been better, so this could be a sneaky loss. So I think it'll be a close game. I think the Jets will win. Chiefs versus Browns. I could see the Browns winning. I'm not gonna pick against the Chiefs. If the Chiefs lose, then that's all me. I'm not expecting it. So yeah, I think that the Chiefs are gonna beat the Browns. Not handedly, but I think they'll win by more than a late second comeback. So yeah, I think Chiefs win. Not much to say. The Browns defense is all right, but their offense isn't great under Jameis. Colts vs Broncos. This is another good game, and it's big because if the if the Colts win, they're still in chance for the playoffs. If they lose, which I think they will, I think the Broncos have been a better team. Their defense has been great. The Broncos. This is the most important game left in the Broncos schedule because the Colts are probably the next closest team to take them over in the playoffs. Them and the Dolphins. So I think the Broncos would beat the Colts. Sean Payton's a really good head coach. So yeah, I think Broncos win, but it'll be a close defensive game, and Bo Nix will play all right. I think the Colts are good, but I just don't think they're as good as the Broncos are right now. Their defense is close to the Broncos' defense, and their offenses are pretty close. I think Broncos win. So that's the week 15 predicting every games. But now I was going to talk about after in my opinion, this is how it's going to go. This would basically, if the Rams win and the Seahawks lose, the Rams would be in the playoffs because they have the tiebreaker over Seattle. So that's big. This week's big for the NFC West and NFC South because the NFC West, the Cardinals win. They, I think the what's it called? The Rams would still be number one, but let's see. Oh no, they did win. My fault. So the Cardinals would have to win this week. Even if they win, they're not going to get fourth place, but there's a better chance. The Seahawks lose, Rams get it. If this Rams win, then Falcons vs Bucks. The Bucks lose to the Chargers, who the Chargers have been a better team than the Bucks this season, and the Falcons beat the Raiders, which they should. They would get fourth place because they have all the tiebreakers versus the Bucks. So the Falcons look dead, but they're still very alive for the playoffs if the Bucks lose. And NFC East is pretty much locked up. The NFC North, if the Lions lose this week, then they're tied, and the next time they play will be very important. The Lions will still keep the one seed, but if the Eagles were to win, yeah, they'll still keep the one seed no matter what. If they lose, but this division's up for grabs for next time they play. But I think Lions will win, so pretty much keeping them good for the one seed. And then yeah, that's the NFC. Not the NFC East isn't much. If the Washington loses, they're 8-6 like the Seahawks. And let's say the Seahawks win, or even if they lose, next week if Washington loses and if both the teams win, Washington will be out of the playoffs. So this Saints game means more than people think for Washington. So sorry if this is taking longer. Just wanted to explain the playoffs. If Miami, if they beat the Texans and the Colts beat the Broncos, then the Texans would be 8-6 and one game out of going down to the wild card if the Colts win. I think the Texans and Colts only played one game. The Texans won. I could be wrong. So the next time they play again, be an important game if this happens. But I think Texans win and Broncos win, which would mean the Colts have to like win out for even a slight chance making the playoffs. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. My fault. So overall view, and then if the uh if the yeah, that's pretty much in the end. I mean, if the Ravens lose to the Giants, which I don't think so, and the Colts win and the Dolphins win, the Ravens can miss the playoffs. If they would have to lose a lot of games, though, the Ravens would be hard for them to miss the playoffs, but they could. So if they beat the Giants, they're basically in, and they're probably going to beat the Giants. So yeah, they could still miss if they beat one of these, but they have to lose out, and the other teams have to win. So this is what I think would happen is going to happen this week. But yeah, Miami, if they win, they would be the eighth seed right out of this. They would need a lot to make the playoffs because I don't think they play the Broncos. So yeah, and then the Bengals. I mean, they won. They would need the Broncos to lose. Then you have to win out. The Bengals need a lot to make the playoffs, but it's possible. Thank you for watching. This went a little long. I just want to explain all the playoffs because it's about that time, and some teams still have chances to make it. Even the Saints, they could make it if they beat Washington and win a lot of games. Falcons and Bucks lose. I think the Saints play the Bucks again, and they beat the Falcons once. So what's it called? Uh, Still a few teams make the playoffs. Some more unlikely than others, but yeah, there's going to be a fun week, a bunch of important games. So thank you for watching. That's my week 15 NFL predictions, and I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and comment if you agree with my picks or not. Goodbye.